All right, this is our first artist weekly feature. We are here with the Spooky Dinosaur, the one and only.
Just so everyone's aware, I don't go by Spooky, I don't go by Dinosaur. If you want to mix the two, you can call me by my scientific name of Spookumsaur, but the Spooky Dinosaur is who I am. I've been a vendor here at the Repop for the past 6+ years?
For quite a while, yeah. We've got a lot of your stuff. It's certainly very popular. Describe your style maybe a little bit. It is very unique and kind of it's lots of sharp corners. I feel like every time I see your style and then I look at you, it's like you kind of look like it. You know, it's like, oh, this makes so much sense. Is there any sort of?
No, honestly, arts. Like an artist's style looks like an artist will look exactly like their style if you look at the person who's making it, and that's something I truly believe with when it comes to an art form. Every artist looks exactly the way that they draw, and I believe it's like the way that people draw is the way that they illustrate and they create, is the way that their eye views the world. So the way that they make themselves up for people to see is that same way that they make their art that they present to people. My art form, my art style, I get a lot of the same responses that you said, like that sharp, angular kind of form. The way that I can probably best explain it would be, because most people ask, what style is it? What is it that I call this sort of art form? I really have no idea. I don't have that information of like what it should be called. And the closest I can think of is like expressionistic style, that like if you ever seen the classic black and white German impressionistic films, like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, those weird shaped angles of buildings and the way that the lighting is done to accentuate and express feeling and emotion in those stories is a way that I relate my art form to, is that nothing is soft edges, like curved, evenly shaped lines and features on people and the world around it. Everything that I make, I try to highlight an accentuation or a visage or a way that people are shown, where it'd be like their features are more expressed in a way that's just different.
Sort of heightened realities. Another take, another perspective.
Right.
Now, a lot of the things that you do are pop culture related, at least the pieces that you'll find at Repop. What are you interacting with right now? What is sort of inspiring you?
When I always focus on, like, pop culture is always a thing that is good to get people to see an artist's, like, to get people to draw in new audiences and new, like, fans to your work, because the thing that people relate with the most is something like the people that people are drawn to are what they're related to. So they grew up with Ninja Turtles, and then you draw a Ninja Turtle piece and someone is just like, I really like that.
Familiarity.
Then it draws them. Sometimes they go, what else has this person done? And they start just to see what those artists do. And then they get to look at some of the more like original ideas that an artist creates. And there's nothing inherently wrong with a fan, like starting out with fan stuff, but I just prefer doing things that aren't fan art specifically. I like to focus on folklore stuff too, because there's also, though it's fan service by doing these things, I'm more able to create something that's like a monster that is known from history, and then like interpreting it in my own style, in my own way, rather than making something that has its own actual like visual representation and then like changing it a little bit to fit the way that I draw, so that I can create something like a Manticore, or I can create something like a Cthulhu or something where it has had its iterations throughout time, but you're able to then add your own creativity into it and
push the boundaries a little bit,
and then like make something that is original to your way of like your view of the world. So I can create something where it's like, yes, this is the phoenix, but it has like clawed wings, or the way that its plumage is created is unique to the way that I want to express it, rather than like making another Harry Potter character where it's like I could maybe change its clothing style, but you have to get them to have a certain look to them so that way people understand who you're making. It's like, I'm not going to make another Ninja Turtle and be like, well, this one's actually when I focus on what we talked about, we can't just make it like, well, now this one's like they're surfers, or like they're like they have that surfer vibe, so now this is a sea turtle instead. So it's like you give them the flippers and things, and people are going to probably like
it removes that sort of familiarity that you're doing it for in the first place. Now, I don't know if I know anybody else that is more familiar and knowledgeable about certain folklore pieces and monsters and myths, and we know you well here as Krampus. Is there a main monster? What got you into this? What is there a piece of folklore that really stretched the boundaries and sort of went, what is this? What can I make this into art?
Krampus is definitely a big one because it's like a creature from a time of the year when it's so widely liked, the Christmas time, the Yule season, and it's a time that is just very like kind of been overdone with Santa Claus and with those sorts of like with religion playing a big part into it, and everything needs to be so cozy and warm, and it's just like very mundane to me now. It's gotten to a point where it's tiresome, that when I look at what other things there are in the world at that time, that they see that there are it's like the darkest time of year. There are dark things out there in winter that scare people, and they're also used as a way to help encourage people to be good, or to like right the way that some people have been wrong. And those things were drawn to me to like pursue them. So I really liked pursuing that, which led me to other things that are around that time of year, which then lead me to different cultures and their different like beliefs and their different monsters.
It was your gateway monster.
Honestly, it's not really one of my gateway ones, but it was one that I knew for a long time, and like longer than most of the people in the area currently are aware of and have been aware of for a while. Growing up, there were a lot of movies that I was into. Like vampires were a big part of it when I was growing up. I think I was a vampire for Halloween for like 10 years of my life. And it was like an easy one to make as well. And then there's werewolves. There were like the classic movie monsters that I think most people, like artists that have become fans of monster artwork, were drawn into. Like grew up on watching Nightmare on Elm Street, on watching like the Halloween films. Those things were part of my life that I really enjoyed. I liked watching and like learning about monsters in cinema, and then monsters in novelizations and in history and that. So, and it might also have been because of my stem from loving dinosaurs as a kid, which were always drawn as being big monsters. Because as we don't know what they were, like if you think of the Jurassic Park movies, they were designed to be like scary, cool monsters.
Right.
And it's like as we're seeing the sciences change them to be like big, fluffy, feathered, like T-Rexes and stuff.
Not as slimy.
Not as well. They're not as gangly and thin and like monstrous looking. They're trying to give like, well, maybe they weren't like a emaciated lizard-like creature.
Yeah.
Maybe they were actually like full-bodied, like muscular animals that had a real form to them, rather than like how cool can we make these
more ethereal sort of creatures.
But I'm still drawn obviously to that ethereal, like aberrant form of what these things might have been. So it's like the Spooky Dinosaur is gangly and thin and has like monstrous tentacles and parts of it that just don't belong on a like dinosaur that should exist. But that's the things that I like to do with my art, is to incorporate things that were and things that aren't, and try to make it into a thing that is new and fresh and like a part of the world that I view around me.
I suppose that's really how you make a monster. You take the rules and then you break them, right?
You have to make it familiar. That's the thing with a good with a good monster in a movie is usually you'll see people talk about make it familiar, make it humanoid enough that you can recognize it for what it is, but make it so different that it is aberrant. It's terrifying. It's something that, knowing that it's familiar to you as a person, but different enough that you know it's wrong, like that uncanny valley.
That uncanniness, the what the hell is that thing? I recognize that it is a thing, but I can't tell what it does, what it is. This is all awesome stuff. Real quick, you can find all sorts of Spooky Dinosaurs prints, stickers.
We made pendants, badges. We made pins this last year, and like expanding the merchandise so that you can find it at thespookydinosaur.com. You can find me here at Repop. They have a website that you can find it at.
repopgifts.com.
Probably the best thing to find me is at Linktree/thespooky-dinosaur, because that will have all of my information. I'll be at all the shows that are in the area. Bordertown Comic-Con coming up.
I'm certain that we'll have you back on another one of these eventually once I actually have some questions prepared. But man, for as willing as you were to just go out and do this with me not being prepared at all on the street, it's like 30 degrees outside, and we're just rolling with it. And you've been awesome. Thanks for coming in. Check out his stuff. Keep up with us over at Repop, and
Stay spooky.
That's correct.